Okay, so here's a story about two tech companies that used to be genuinely friendly. Like, we'll refer customers to each other friendly. And now, their CEOs are taking not so subtle shots at each other on earnings calls. I'm talking about Snowflake and Databricks. And if you don't work in data, stick with me, because this is basically a breakup story, just with more spreadsheets. So, a few years ago, these two were up-and-coming startups solving the same basic problem. Companies were drowning in data and needed somewhere to actually store and use it. Different approaches, sure, but similar enough customers that their sales teams would literally pass leads back and forth. Genuinely friendly competitors. The kind of rivalry where you still get a beer together at the conference. But that did not last. So Snowflake goes first. Under CEO Frank Slootman, they prove their product can straight up beat the cloud giants, AWS, the works, at their own game. And in 2020, they ride that momentum into the biggest software IPO in history. Not one of the biggest ever at that point. Meanwhile, Databricks is building something a little different. A lakehouse, which is basically their pitch that you shouldn't have to choose between a cheap, messy data lake and an expensive, tidy data warehouse. You should get both. And CEO Ali Ghodsi is very, very committed to that pitch. For a while, both companies just grow massively, quietly circling each other, like two people at a party who both showed up in the same outfit and are pretending not to notice. Then AI happens, and suddenly, pretending not to notice is over. In 2024, Slootman steps down as Snowflake CEO. Totally normal corporate transition, right? Well, Ghodsi goes to Bloomberg TV and when asked about it says, and I'm paraphrasing only slightly, "We put the pressure on them. We made them realize AI mattered because Snowflake was, in his words, basically not doing AI whatsoever." That is a choice. That's not "our competitor also does great work" energy. That's "I watch them tap out" energy. Snowflake, for the record, declined to comment, which in corporate speak is its own kind of shade right back. And it doesn't stop there. Around the same time, there's this whole other subplot happening with something called Iceberg. It's an open format for organizing data that both companies desperately want to control, because whoever controls the format kind of controls where the industry's data actually lives. There's a company called Tabular that basically invented Iceberg. Both Snowflake and Databricks want to buy them. A literal bidding war breaks out. Databricks wins, paying over $1 billion. And just to make sure everyone gets the message, Snowflake announces its own Iceberg-flavored product days later, like an ex immediately posting a vacation photo dump. Oh, and Snowflake's own CFO at the time, on an earnings call, warns investors about revenue headwinds because customers might use this open format instead of paying Snowflake directly, which is a genuinely wild thing to say out loud on a call full of investors. That's not just admitting the rivalry is real. That's admitting it might be winning. And look, this isn't just petty back and forth for its own sake. There's real money riding on who's actually right. Databricks has been on an absolute acquisition tear. Over $1 billion for an AI startup called Mosaic ML, then another $1 billion plus for Tabular, plus a string of smaller deals in between. That's not flex spending. That's a company betting hundreds of millions of dollars that its version of the future, the AI and data lakehouse version, is the one that wins. Snowflake, meanwhile, is making its own bets, repositioning hard around AI, restructuring leadership, trying to prove the basically not doing AI whatsoever line doesn't age well for them. Two former friends, similar products, wildly different bets on what correct looks like, and billions of dollars proving neither of them is bluffing. So next time someone tells you enterprise data software is boring, just remind them. This is an industry where the CEOs go on television to imply their old buddy's company was asleep at the wheel and then back it up by writing billion-dollar checks to prove it. Grab your popcorn. The data warehouse Cold War isn't over yet. It's just moving on to the next earnings call. This is Tech Stack Breakdown. Subscribe.